Gopijana Balava Girivanadari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balava Girivanadari Gopijana Balava Girivanadari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jai Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jai Gauranitai Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jai Prabhupada Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe. Jaya Panchatattva 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 Jai Panchatattva. Jaumishnapad Paramahansa Parivirgacharya Asatarasata Shishimad. Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jaumishnapad Paramahansa Parivirgacharya Asatarasata Shishimad. Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrindi Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Me Ki Jai. Jamuna Me Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gopamanandi Haribo. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru Shri Gauranga. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nastapreshu Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So verse 39 is on the board, but I have to read verse 37 and 38. I'm just going to read it by myself. Tasmin su-dhanvan ahani bhagavān yad samādiśat upāyād āśrama-padam muneḥ śānta-vratasya tat. O Vidura, there is the hermitage of the sage who had just completed his vows of austerity on the very day foretold by the Lord. Yasmin bhagavato netran nyapatan ashrubindava kripaya samparitasya prapane eripitaya bisham. Today's verse, repeat after me. Tavai bindusaro nama sarasvatya pariplutam punyam shivamrita jalam arshi gana sevitam. Tadvai bindusaro nama sarasvatya pariplutam punyam shivamrita jalam Maharshi Gana Sevitam. Tadvai Bindusaro Nama Sarasvatya Pariplutam Punyam Shivamrita Jalam Maharshi Gana Sevitam. ladies. The holy lake Bindu Sarovara, flooded by the waters of the river Saraswati, was resorted by the host of eminent sages. Its holy water was not only auspicious, but as sweet as nectar. It was called Bindu Sarovara because drops of tears had fallen there from the eyes of the Lord, who was overwhelmed by extreme compassion for the sage who had sought his protection. Please repeat after me. The holy lake Bindu Sarovara, flooded by the waters of the river Saraswati, was resorted to by a host of eminent sages. Its holy water was not only auspicious, but as sweet as nectar. It was called Bindu Sarovara because drops of tears had fallen there from the eyes of the Lord, who was overwhelmed by extreme compassion for the sage who had sought his protection. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Kardama underwent austerities to gain the causeless mercy of the Lord. And when the Lord arrived, there he was so compassionate that in pleasure he shed tears, which became Bindu Sarovara. Bindu Sarovara, therefore, is worshipped by great sages and learned scholars, because, according to the philosophy of the Absolute Truth, the Lord and the tears from his eyes are not different, just as drops of perspiration which fell from the toe of the Lord became the sacred Ganges. So teardrops from the transcendental eye of the Lord became Bindu Sarovara. Both are transcendental entities and are worshipped by great sages and scholars. The water of Bindu Sarovara is described here as Shivamrita Jala. Shiva means curing, and one who drinks the water of Bindu Sarovara is cured of all material diseases. Similarly, anyone who takes his bath in the Ganges also is relieved of all material diseases. These claims are accepted by great scholars and authorities and are still being acted upon even in this fallen age of Kali. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gananjanastrakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jnana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master has opened my eyes to the torchlight of knowledge. I offer him my reciprocal obeisances. Before I start my class, I want to pay my respect and obeisances to the senior devotees here, Rameshwara Prabhu, Sagar Maharaj, and Hridaya Chaitanya Prabhu, and others. And also pay my respect to all the junior or medium or advanced devotees. You're all transcendentalists, and you are a very rare personality to take up devotional service. So I'm very happy to be able to discuss Bhagavatam with you today. So if we go to the purport, we find that the Lord is, amazingly enough, like it was said many times before in other classes, that the Lord is compassionate and merciful even to somebody who has material desires. It's not unusual. Indra has many material desires. Dhruva had material desires, so on and so forth. But there's not much more to be said about it, other than the Lord is very merciful and he hears everybody's prayers. like Rameshwar Prabhu said before, there's so many millions and trillions of living entities in the world, but they do not reciprocate with the Lord. Only those who want to reciprocate the Lord will reciprocate. Does not interfere with the independence of the living entities. So in order to better understand this pastime of Kardamomani and devotee, we have to take it a little bit in context with the old third canto and the old Bhagavatam. Because this story is related to another story before that destroyed the meaning of the third canto of the Bhagavatam. Before this story, there's the story of Diti and Kashyapa Muni and the killing of Hiranyaksha. So Diti forced her husband at the wrong time of the day into intercourse, and she deviated from the Vedic scriptures, and her husband also deviated, and because they deviated, they suffered a lot of oncoming calamities, like the birth of Hiranyaksha, and Diti had to suffer a lot. On the other hand, in contrast to that, we see that devotee, she served her husband faithfully and without pushing any demands on him. She was very patient, and after a while, Kadamba Muni was so pleased with her service, she was also becoming emaciated and weak in health. So he took compassion on her and took her on a honeymoon, the biggest honeymoon ever. At the Ariel mansion, he flew all over the universe, went to all the pleasure ground of the demigods, and they enjoyed materially quite a few years. So of the two of them, who enjoyed the most, Diti or devotee, materially speaking? Can somebody give an answer? Who enjoyed the most, Diti or devotee? Devotee. Because she followed the laws of the Lord, and she was clear with the law, and the Lord does not mind material desires, but as long as they're executed according to the Vedic scriptures. That's why this pastime is there, to show that how important it is to follow the law, follow the Vedas. The Lord doesn't mind if we have material desires, as long as we satisfy them according to His ruling. So the third canto is about the ruling of the Lord. It's called Sthanam. It comes after the first creation of Mahavishnu creates the material ingredients, then Brahma creates the material bodies of the living entities, and he puts, after the material bodies are created, he puts the different living entities according to the karma on different planets. He put the demigods in the heavenly planets, he put the human beings on the earth planet, the demons in the lower planetary system, the Gandharvas and Gandharva Loka. Everybody is situated in the material world to live their karma, and they have to follow the law. There's a ruling. There's a system of management. This is to fight atheism, because atheism means you don't have to follow anybody, you're not under any laws. So the Bhagavatam wants to bring theism in the forefront, so that's why these examples are there. If you don't follow, just like a bull tied by a ring in his nose, if he deviates from the path, the owner pulled the rope and he suffers pain, he goes back on the path. If he does not deviate, there's no pain. So there's pain, that means there's a pain giver. There's consequences. So it's about understanding that the absolute truth is a person. Like there might have been many sages around Kadamba Muni who were also meditating, but they may not have been meditating on the Vishnu, They might be meditating on Brahman. They might be meditating on Paramatma with a desire to merge into him. But Kadama Muni was meditating on the Lord, and the Lord appeared to him. The Lord appeared to him as the absolute truth. Here I am. I'm the absolute truth. I'm the supreme person. I fulfill everybody's desires. I am Brahman, I'm Paramatma, but ultimately I am Vishnu, the Supreme Lord. Also, in this canto, there was a big rascal who was challenging the laws of the Lord. Somebody give his name? What? Hiranyaksha. He was challenging the will of the Lord, the ruling of the Lord. And the Lord killed him. So the Bhagavatam, so the third canto is about, there's a law and order that people has to follow. And also, Brahman is not the ultimate realization. The ultimate realization is Vishnu or Krishna. Now, in order to understand the meaning of the Bhagavatam, the intention of Vyasadeva in writing Bhagavatam, anartha upasamang sakshat bhakti yoga madokchaji logasya janata vichvam chakari sadvata samitam. The material miseries which are superfluous to the living entities can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service. But the general mass of people do not know this, and therefore the great sage Vyasadeva has compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam so that they can take advantage and attain liberation. That is the motive behind compiling the Bhagavatam. That Vyasadeva, out of compassion, he wants to reveal the most secret of all secret, which is devotional service, to everybody, the general mass of people. Not just the Paramahamsas, the general mass. The Bhagavatam is for the general mass of people. So therefore, there's a certain structure to the Bhagavatam to bring the conditioned soul to understanding Krishna's pastime. Like when I was a non-devotee, I met some devotees on the street. I got some books from them. And I went to the Toronto temple and I bought Krishna book. I read Krishna book and I became convinced by reading Krishna book that Krishna is the Supreme Lord because it's called bhagavān, proprietor of 6 opulence and full beauty, full knowledge, full renunciation, and full everything else. So I thought, well, this is the perfect description of God. So I became a devotee without reading the first 9 canto. Like I understood, because the Prabhupada's books are so powerful that even any non-devotees who read this Krishna book can become a devotee. Later on, he has to face his anarthas that will come up in due course of time. Then he had to read the 9 canto. So I'm sorry if I'm a little nervous. I'm kind of intimidated by the advanced devotees here and the different people here. So I'm a little hesitant sometimes. But still, even though it's difficult for me to give class, kind of a challenge, still I want to give class because I want to show my gratefulness to the Supreme Lord to have made me a devotee. So please bear with me. So Vyasadeva, he wanted to make the Bhagavatam available to the conditioned soul. So we can see in the Bhagavatam there's many allegories that are told to a king, like for example King Rogana and Jadbharat. Jadbharat told him an allegory. And Jadbharat and Maharaja Rogana, after hearing the allegory, he told Jadbharat, I'm sorry, I'm dull-headed. I couldn't understand what you were saying. Can you repeat the allegory in more simple terms? And again, he repeated the whole story in more simple terms. After he repeated the story for a second time, then Maharaj Parikshit asked Sukadeva Goswami, I don't really know what they're talking about. Can you give the direct meaning of this analogy? Again, a third time is described. So the Bhagavatam, because it's for the general mass of people, it's downgraded to us. The knowledge is very high, but Vyasadeva made it so that the stories are retold in more simple terms, so we can get it. On the other hand, we have the story of the Aryajvas, or the children of Daksha who went to perform austerities. They were already advanced spiritually, and Narada Muni intercepted them and preached to them, also gave them an analogy, but they understood immediately without any explanation. Because they were advanced spiritually, they could figure it out. But ourselves, we need re-explanation and down-explanation to make it available for us so we can understand. Therefore, Vyasadeva is writing, and he selected these stories especially so we can make spiritual progress. I have a side question. So Vyasadeva, he wanted to make available the Bhagavatam to the general mass of people. Who is the Acharya who did the most of this in the modern age? Make available the Bhagavatam to the general mass of people in the world. I'll ask this question to Rameshwar Prabhu. Yeah. Who is the Acharya who's assisting Vyasadeva to distribute to the general mass of people the message of Srimad Bhagavatam in the modern age?
Hare Krishna. Everyone in this room knows the answer to this. But I would say one thing, besides the obvious that it's Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada made a big distinction between devotees who are bhajananandi and devotees who are goshti-anandi. And he said, more dear to the Lord is the goshti-anandi path, because the Lord wants all his children to come back home. And the path of goshti-anandi, which Srila Prabhupada personified, is to reach the masses, the most mass distribution of Krishna consciousness ever, which is what makes one very dear to Krishna. So, of course, Srila Prabhupada personified this.
Thank you, Prabhu. So, in the same line of the Bhagavatam getting handed down to us, there's a story in the 11th canto of Uddhava meeting Krishna. At the end of before Krishna departed, he met Uddhava, and he told Uddhava, my dear Uddhava, do not remain here in the material world. Kali Yuga is very fast approaching. It's full of sinful activities, full of chaos, full of offenses and quarrel. You should fully control your mind and senses, give up your family, give up your friends, roam the earth, and fully fix your mind on me. And he gave further instruction after that. So Uddhava said to Krishna, my dear Krishna, these instructions you just gave me are for sannyasis. What about the general mass of people who are controlled by their mind and senses, who cannot resist the attraction of the sense objects, who are defeated and dragged down to the mode of ignorance? Can you say something to help these people? So Krishna answered, it is not true what you're saying, that the conditioned soul cannot control its senses. We can see that intelligent people, by observing the material world, can abstain themselves from gross degradation just by using their intelligence. Sometimes the conditioned soul can become their own spiritual master. Then Krishna goes to explain to Uddhava the story of King Yadu meeting the Avadhuta Brahmana, who, by observing the material world with his intelligence, discovered 27 gurus, and with help of these gurus, like the sun, the moon, the earth, the sky, fire, the prostitute Pingala, the young girl, so 27 gurus. The Avadhuta said, by studying these gurus, I have attained self-realization with my own intelligence. But when we say somebody can become self-realized without a guru by using his own intelligence, by being his own guru, the acharyas in the purport, they qualified that statement. They say, no, it's not possible to attain self-realization by not accepting a guru. You have to accept a guru. What it means is that if you have a guru and he says something, you have to verify the truthfulness and the veracity of his teaching with your own intelligence by observing the material world. You cannot be a blind follower. You must be self-intelligent and put into practice what you heard from your guru. The guru says something, you hear what he says, and you test it with your own intelligence. You observe the reality of the material world, see if it matches what the guru is saying. Of course, the guru will say something about the spiritual world that we cannot test. We're conditioned soul, we cannot perceive the spiritual world. But we have to take it as blind faith. We have to accept what they say. But the material world is in front of us, and we can observe it and confirm what the guru is saying is true and increase our faith in the guru. You want to do that? You want to check out what Sukadeva Goswami is saying is true? We can make an experiment. So there's a perfect chapter to do that. Is in the 5th canto, chapter 14, the great forest and material enjoyment. There is many statements being made by Sukadeva Goswami, because it said that Sukadeva Goswami is the great sage who can enter the heart of all. He knows what we're thinking, what we're feeling. He knows everything about the conditioned soul as well as the liberated soul. So when he described the condition of the conditioned soul, it's perfect knowledge. So let's see what he says. I took one verse from that chapter, verse 18. The verse described more like in Vedic terms, but I'm going to modify it to Western terms. First I'm going to read the translation, then I'm going to make a little bit of adjustment. In our soul life, one is ordered to execute many yagyas and fruitive activities, especially the viva yagya, the marriage ceremony for sons and daughters, and the sacred thread ceremony. These are all the duties of a grihastha, and they are very extensive and troublesome to execute. They are compared to a big hill over which one must cross when one is attached to material activities. A person desiring to cross over these ritualistic ceremonies certainly feels pain like the piercing of thorns and pebbles endured by one attempting to climb a hill. Thus the conditioned soul suffer unlimitedly. So Papa gave in the purport the example of an Hindu Vaishnava who has to marry his daughter. Costs a lot of money. He has to pay the Brahmins. He had to give a dowry. So he exhausts his whole life saving to marry his daughter, because he is obliged to the social custom. And this way for him is like climbing a hill. It's like a big, big obstacle. Now, when I was in Los Angeles Ratha Yatra this year, I'm part of the crew that set up the festival at a festival site on Venice Beach. So I was sitting on a park bench, and a person approached me. He was about 60 years old. He started to talk to me, and very soon started to reveal his mind. His mind was disturbed. He said, I'm an employee of the government, and I make a good salary. I'm an accountant. I work for the income tax department. And all my life I've been very happy with my children. But now I'm undergoing a crisis. Recently, my son, I have 3 sons. They're 21 years old, 20 years old, 19 years old. And they're all entering into college, and I have to pay the bills. Simultaneously, my parents are too old to take care of themselves, and I have to put them in a nursery home, and I have to pay the bills. So this person was under financial stress, and also he was realizing that he was exhausting his whole life saving on people who are going to leave him behind. His 3 children were going to leave him behind, and his mom and dad are going to die, going to be left alone. What am I paying this? It was like, reality was hitting hard. He was realizing that, what did I do all this for? So, it was a personification of this verse that in family life, when one meets responsibilities, it feels like it's crossing over a big mountain. There's quite a few of those statements we can verify that are true. I'm going to choose a couple more. In this material world, when the conditioned soul cannot arrange for his own maintenance, despite exploiting others, he tried to exploit his own father or son, taking away that relative's possessions, although they may be insignificant, very insignificant. If he cannot acquire things from his father, son, or other relatives, he's prepared to give them all kinds of trouble. And in the purport, Prabhupada explained the story of a man who take away the ornament of his own daughter to pay his bills. So necessities knows no law. So in Sharanagati, where I live, in Western Canada, there's half an hour away, there's a town called Kamloops. And in that town, there's a girl, initiated devotee. Right now, at this moment, she's getting sued by her own mother, not her stepmother, her biological mother, getting sued over inheritance dispute. This is another proof that what the Guru is saying is true. Whatever is said in this chapter will come to be true. I can take a couple more. There's verse about ending up in prison. There's verse about traumas. There's verse about depression. There's verse about divorce. Which one you want to hear from? There's lots. It says that in a Varnashram society, people are earning their livelihood according to their Varna. If they're Brahmins, they will teach and they will accept charity. If they're Kshatriyas, they'll rule over, they're allowed to exact taxes, fines, and they maintain themselves like that. And if they are Vaishyas, they make surplus trading, they liquefy the money, they maintain themselves like agriculture, crop protection. And the Sudra, they serve the other classes and they get maintained. So everybody's got their own way to maintain themselves according to their Varna. But if you're outcast, if you're not part of the caste, how are you going to maintain yourself? You're not going to maintain yourself in that way. So in the story of a Jamil, when he was a Brahmin in youth, he could have gone on that path and earned his livelihood in this way. But only when he became mesmerized by the prostitute, he lost his caste and became outcast. And what did he do to maintain himself? Bhagavatam says he was cheating, was organizing chess game, cheating, he was lying, he was frauding people, he was stealing, he was on the black market, whatever way he could find. So today in the world, how many people are Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishyas, or even Sudras? They are all outcasts. And because they have to choose these ways to maintain themselves, the crime rate over the world is sky high. Rameshwar can testify of this if I'm wrong. But in the state of California, there's a new law that says that if you steal below $1,000, it's okay. You won't be arrested. Is that true, Rameshwar? It is true, right? So the thieves, that is true. So because the government is so much embarrassed by how many criminals there is, the prisons are full, and they can't pay the bills anymore, so they let the criminals run the street. People leave California because of that, because the shop owners, these thieves come into the shop, they steal the merchandise, they run away, and nobody can arrest them. If they steal above $1,000, then they get arrested. So it's Kali Yuga. So Srila Prabhupada also is like Sukadeva Goswami, and whatever he says is true also. Recently I was hearing a class by Srila Prabhupada. He was describing the condition of modern society. He was saying that modern society is very glamorous. There's a very glamour. There's sky-rise buildings with windows, and there's big highways everywhere in the Western world. There's big cars, Teslas, Lamborghinis, Volvo, Mercedes, and Totos. Not the Totos for here. And they have big bridges, big sports stadiums, very glamorous. Like in Toronto, when we set up the Ratha Yatra, the parade is on the mainland, but the festival site is on an island, Toronto Island, in Lake Ontario. So everybody has to take a ferry to go from the mainland to the festival site. It takes half an hour. At the Toronto parade, there's 30,000 participants, not spectators, participants. They're like devotees, 30,000. They have to take the ferry and go to the island, and they have the festival site is there. At the end of the festival, we take down the festival, and we're done at midnight, and we put all the paraphernalia on the semi-trailer truck, and then we take the ferry. But when you take the ferry at midnight, you can see the Toronto skyline. They have these flash of lights, multicolor on the side of the buildings. It's very beautiful, very glamorous. So Prabhupada explained the material world appears to be very glamorous. But despite this glamour, in each one of these office buildings, and each one of these cars, each one of these football stadium, is a big rascal there who's going to hell. We don't want to criticize the non-devotees because they're helpless, but just to separate the good from the bad. The scriptures sometimes criticize them, although Lord Chaitanya has a movement of mercy. So permit me to do that, following in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada. So they all rascal, Prabhupada says, and they all go into hell because they eat meat. Many of them will abort their wives, and they take intoxication, drinks, and smoke, and whatever they do. And those activities all are going to hell. So Prabhupada compared this to two thieves, the story of two thieves. So this one thief is a small thief, and another one is a big thief. The small thief is a pickpocket. He steals a wallet or steals some food at a food market. He gets caught, he's in front of the judge. The judge said to him, "You're a thief, you go to jail." Then there's the big thief. He's a cyber expert. He hacked some company computer, he steals millions of dollars in bitcoins, or he has fancy tools. He digs a tunnel underneath a bank, goes through the floor of the bank. He counteracts the security system with laser beams, and he has like torches, and he has fancy equipment. He gets caught. He goes in front of the judge. The judge tells him, "You're a thief. You go to jail." The big thief says, "No, you don't understand. I'm a big thief. I'm an educated thief. I have fancy tools. I studied a lot to do what I do. I'm a gang member, and I don't deserve to go to jail. I have all this equipment. I'm very refined and elaborate techniques. I'm not an ordinary thief here. I'm a big thief." It's just, you're still a thief at the end of the day. You just go to jail. So in a materialistic society, there might be a lot of glamour, but at the end of the day, people are degraded. They're just bound to hell. That's what Papa gave his example for. So we have to, of course, these things don't really apply to us because we're liberated soul, right? We're all liberated, so these things don't apply to us. Now, they will apply to the degree we're conditioned. So, on the other side, this is like the negative side of Krishna consciousness. There's no negative side of Krishna consciousness, but Krishna explained what's going to happen if we don't surrender to Him, as what will happen if we surrender to Him. If we surrender to Him, the opposite happens. We don't go to hell. We become elevated more and more. We attain peacefulness, satisfaction, fulfill our desire, the anxiety goes down. That's the result of surrendering to Krishna. Krishna is peaceful. So if we meditate on Him, we'll become peaceful also in due course of time. And also by studying this chapter about the miseries of material existence, if you know the miseries get lessened. It's like if you have a disease, but you don't know what a disease is, the anxiety is higher. But if you know what a disease is, at least that anxiety is gone. You just have to deal with the disease. So, like that, to know about the anxieties and details, what causes anxiety in the material world. If we know that in detail, our miseries will go down. Like for example, another misery, because the material world is full of envious people. Sometimes you get some backbiting, somebody bites back you, like some rumor about you and you hear about it, and somebody's like talking against you. It's compared to a cricket in the forest, a cricket or mouses or rats. You give a disturbance. If that happens to you, you don't take it personally. You just say, "Oh, some cricket is doing its thing." You don't take it personally. Or if you're traumatized in your childhood, well, you can understand that people are under pressure, the material energy, and what happened to you is the law. It's happened to everybody in the material world. You kind of depersonalize it, bring it to a more philosophical level, and this way you suffer less. So the Bhagavatam wants to make us suffer less. That's why these topics are explained. So I'm going to stop here and give time for questions, comments, and corrections.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for being Lord Jagannath's servant.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So I always find that this verse, we heard yesterday about this as well, the idea that the Supreme Lord appears in his Ram form is so majestic, so awe-inspiring, and seeing the feelings of Kadamba, he's shedding tears. We never heard of anything like this. When you read about the Lord in Vaikuntha, you don't think of him as in that such a personal, emotional way. This is hard, I think, for us to imagine and picture this, and yet it's right there in the Bhagavatam.
Yes,
the Lord sheds tears for his devotee.
Like we're conditioned by our religion. Like I'm a Christian, I was a Christian. Christianity depicts God as vengeful. And it's hard to, you're always afraid of committing a sin or an offense, because God is there to punish you. But Krishna is not like that. And it's hard to get back to the right vision of God. We have to retrain our thinking. The Lord is, just like a pure devotee has ecstatic love for God, God has ecstatic love for us. It's undeniable. So thank you very much for your comment. Very timely. And today is the Rasa dance day. So this is an example that Krishna is ready to take on anybody in the Rasa dance. Rasa dance means Krishna danced personally with you. He expanded himself. And he dances with you. All living entities are eligible to come exchange the highest bliss with Krishna. It's all Krishna is so merciful, is so fired up, so into it. It's inconceivable that he's inviting us to this. We don't know what is awaiting us, but we're getting ready for a surprise. Anybody else?
Thank you for the class, Prabhu.
Thank you.
I was wondering, in the purport it mentioned that the Bindu Sarovara was non-different from the Lord, but I wonder why that's a qualifier for it being special, since everything is non-different from Krishna. Is it that it's like Vishnu Tattva, or what makes it special in particular?
Can you repeat the last part of your question?
Yeah, I was just wondering why, what makes the Bindu Sarovara special? Because it says it's non-different from Krishna, but then everything's non-different for Krishna, so I don't think that's a qualifier.
Well, everything is simultaneously one and different from Krishna. Like this table is, you cannot say it's Krishna, you can say it's Krishna. You can also say it's not Krishna personally. But the deities, it's Krishna personally. So the Bindu Sarovara is Krishna personally. This is Tadiya, expansion. We cannot say that everything is Krishna. That's Mayapur philosophy. Everything is one and different simultaneously. Yes?
Thank you.
Mataji is an old associate from Gita Nagari.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Just at the end,
It happens all the time. It's one of the miseries of the material world.
Krishna's Ras Leela. It reminded me, back in the days of cassette tapes, I had a tape of Srila Prabhupada. It was like Los Angeles, very early, maybe 68. And it must have been on Ras Leela Day. After the lecture, Prabhupada said, "Any question?" And one girl said, "Swamiji, can you tell us something about Krishna's Ras Leela?" And Prabhupada said, "Krishna's Ras Leela is not for public meeting. Lord Chaitanya was only discussing Swarup Damodar, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya." But then he began to tell, and he said, it's like some ball dance. But Krishna bifurcated himself to dance with each and every gopi. He described that all the girls, they loved Krishna. They all wanted to marry Krishna. So he himself to dance with each one. And then at the end, beautiful description, he said, "So if you want to love Krishna similarly as the gopis loved, that chance is there for you. Only you have to give up the Ras Leela of this material world."
Thank you very much. Very nice of you to say it. Anybody else? Yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for a wonderful class. You had mentioned earlier, you asked us a question and you let this Prabhu here answer. It was something that you mentioned in your answer, which I hadn't heard before. I was just wondering if I can get some clarification. You mentioned there were two types of devotees. Ghosh and Nandi, and I didn't remember the other one. But if you can explain those. Could you explain those for me?
Ajana Nandi is a great devotee who only thinks of himself going back to Godhead. Nandi thinks, I want to take everyone back to Godhead ahead of me. That's the difference. And Prabhupada is the supreme Nandi for this age of Kali.
There's 1 minute left. More questions.